Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Falls Chamber of Commerce 2021 Mayoral Candidate Forum. We have a couple of great candidates here tonight ready to tell you a little bit about their position on important topics to the Somersworth community. And we also have moderator Dawn Briand here to ask some questions and keep us on task. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and welcome Dawn and welcome our candidates, and thank you for everyone watching, and enjoy.
Well, thank you, Allison. And as you said, welcome to the Falls Chamber of Commerce Mayoral Forum for 2021. And it's a great honor to serve as a moderator for the forum. Just a few rules, let you know what is going to be happening. The candidates will be given 3 minutes to give their opening statements. Each candidate will give a 3-minute opening statement. And after that, we will start a round robin of questions that have been submitted to the candidates by the residents of Somersworth. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question, and every candidate will respond to each of the questions that we'll be asking this evening. In the last 10 seconds of your 1 minute, our timekeeper, Allison, will hold up a yellow 10 seconds remaining card. And at the end of those 10 seconds, your microphone will be muted. You will not be able to continue. And unless someone out there is a lip reader, they won't know what you're saying. So please adhere to that 1 minute and watch for Allison and that yellow 10-second card. Again, each candidate will be allowed to answer all of the questions that we'll be asking tonight. We do ask the candidates if you will make sure that your phones are muted or set to stun, so that we're not interrupted during this candidates forum. So thank you to all the people who are watching right now, and thanks to our candidates. And let us kick things off with the 3-minute opening statements, and we will start with Dana Hilliard. Dana?
Thank you, Dawn, and thank you, Allison, and members of the chamber. 8 years ago, our community was struggling with a loss of identity and belief in self. It was through the journey of discovering that the key to our success lays within the Hilltopper spirit of the values of neighbor helping neighbor that Somersworth was able to reemerge as one of the leaders on the Seacoast region, having gained a statewide reputation as New Hampshire's welcoming city for our commitment to diversity and inclusion. Over the next 2 years, let us not stop on the trails of our successes, but let us continue. Let us continue on the path of infrastructure upgrades, over 14 million in the last decade. Let us continue on our path of ensuring our natural resources and environment will be protected for the next generation of Hilltopper citizens with the work of Preserve Somersworth Commission. Let us continue our dedication to our first responders by providing police, fire, and EMS state-of-the-art equipment and competitive salaries to keep our community safe. And as a testament to this commitment, our new state-of-the-art fire station is now under construction. Let us continue the economic revitalization of our city and our downtown district. 155 new businesses in the last 10 years have named Somersworth their home. And let us continue the process of examining a Riverwalk recreation and business trail to come to reality. Let us continue to ensure that all of our students can reach their hopes and dreams by supporting high-quality 21st century learning opportunities. Our state and national award-winning schools continue to lead the way to all of our student successes with their unwavering dedication to each and every child in our city. Let us continue to protect the generations of families who made Somersworth their home by ensuring Somersworth remains affordable for all current and future generations. Our city has recently been recognized for these forward practices, and our city professionals, along with the city manager and the housing authority, were tasked by the mayor's office to forward their further recommendations to our city council and mayor's office by December. In 2012, our property tax rate was $27.83. 10 years later, with all these investments in our community, it's $27.85. With a commitment to all Hilltoppers, let us continue to celebrate our greatest strength and asset, each and every citizen, and our vast cultural diversity, openness, and acceptance. With determination, I look forward to our continual rediscovery of our greatness. I have represented and led from the mayor's office over the past 8 years and look to you, the citizens, for a renewal of the lease on the mayor's office for the next 2 to continue the journey of our successes and continue to keep Somersworth on the move. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dana. Our next opening statement, 3 minutes from Ken Hilton.
Hi, my name is Ken Hilton. I'm not a native Somersworther, hilltopper. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. I moved to New Hampshire in 1982 to work at Seabrook at the nuclear power plant. I'm a plumber by trade. I work day in and day out. I have served overseas with an organization called Mercy Ships. We lived on board a hospital ship in West Africa for 5 years with the family. I was part of the plumbing, welding, pipe fitting team on board, bringing hope and healing to the forgotten poor in West Africa. We would also travel back and forth between there and Europe to be able to resupply and give tours on board the ship to let people know about the ministry. I've dealt with many different cultures across the world, so I bring a different perspective to Somersworth politics. The reason I'm running for office, there was no one running from a conservative perspective. I think part of diversity is bringing perspectives from all different points of view, not just special interest groups, not just one party rule. I have 4 children, 4 grandchildren. We've been here in Somersworth for 3 years. We lived down on Green Street, 16 Green Street, and rented from Matt Denola for a year. So I got to see the downtown portion of the city. I enjoy walking downtown, visiting, spending time with people. I would be a voice for all of Somersworth. I'm willing to listen and talk and work together with anyone and everyone. When we were block walking the other day and knocking doors, ran into meth addicts, heroin addicts, people coming just out of rehab that have lost their families. It's a tough part of the city, but it needs representation also. So as a conservative perspective, I've seen that ours is a rough, America is rough, but it's still the best in the world. God bless them.
All right, thank you. And the final opening statement, 3 minutes, Crystal Paradise.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Crystal Parody. And as a community organizer, I know that the power to transform a community lies with the people. I'm currently second in line for mayor because the people of Somersworth elected me as their most widely supported representative with the highest number of votes on city council. And I'm proud of that because it shows the power of community organizing. Collective power will always win, but it takes leadership that listens. Our community has told me that they are tired of being told no or wait, tired of property taxes going up while their streets and curbs and sidewalks crumble, tired of corporations being given incentives while Main Street businesses jump through hoops for things that other communities make so much easier for their businesses. Our community told me all of these things and saw the hard work I was putting in for the community, and they asked me to step up and run for mayor. I said yes. As leaders, we have to act urgently while we still have a say in how to bring more small businesses to rebuild our downtown economy, while we still have a chance to protect affordable housing and prevent further displacement of people who can currently only just barely afford to stay here. But if property taxes and rents keep increasing, they won't have a choice but to leave. Meeting these challenges with the collective power of the people is our responsibility as leaders. So we're at the verge of writing our next 10-year master plan, which will guide us through the next decade. So let's take a look at the last decade in Somersworth. 2020 census data shows that since 2010, Dover has grown 9.1%, Rochester has grown 9.3%, and Berwick has grown 9.7%. Somersworth, meanwhile, has grown only 1%. We've lost businesses and housing developers because they've heard more no's than yeses from our city leadership. We can't keep waiting while regional prosperity passes us by or skips us over for the next town who's ready to embrace it. We can't wait to say yes. We can't afford to simply continue with the same playbook while surrounding communities are transforming themselves to keep up with the pace of the economy, of the job market, with education benchmarks that students in the city are not being given the tools to reach. The mayor is a powerful position in the city, and with great power comes great responsibility. As elected officials, we have a responsibility not to abuse that power or use it to intimidate. As community members, we have a responsibility to recognize when power is being inappropriately consolidated at the expense of our democracy. We have a choice to make on November 2nd. Are we satisfied with the status quo? Or are we ready to embrace a new vision to say yes and work together to make it happen? I think we're ready. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much to our candidates for their opening statements. Now we'll do the round robin. And again, each candidate will have the opportunity to answer each of the questions this evening. And we will start with Crystal on the first question. How active would you be in maintaining the historic value of properties in Somersworth and keeping the history of the city alive?
So thanks for that question. Many of our city's challenges can be attributed to urban renewal in the 50s and 60s, when much of our history was demolished and our downtown was cleared out with no plan to rebuild. We can't afford to make that same mistake as we work on our next 10-year master plan. Historic preservation is a huge driver of the economy. And I'm not just talking about Portsmouth, I'm talking about Dover and Rochester too. So many surrounding communities have tapped into and preserved their historic communities for the betterment of the whole city. Yet time and time again in Somersworth, our leadership has dropped the ball or chosen to neglect our best assets and where we came from. I see the possibility in our city's past and living history. And I live up here on the hill. It's the largest contiguous historic district in the state. And I would work really hard to protect that historic preservation, knowing that it is a driver of our economy.
All right, same question, Ken Hilton, and you have 1 minute to respond.
Ken, you're on mute.
Okay, I thought you were doing the unmuting. Sorry.
I tried, it wouldn't let me. I'm sorry. All right, restarting the clock.
Okay. The best way to maintain historical value of properties is for those properties to be economically attractive and viable. In the long view, this requires private enthusiasm and investment. But there are things that the city can and should do to help them to be economically attractive. We must assure that the safety of our good citizens and our investors' property and of their customers. We must work to remove any unnecessary roadblocks to investment and development, maintain our infrastructure, have a competitive property tax structure, and encourage a welcoming and business-friendly attitude of our public service throughout all the city, like the city clerk's office. When I went into the city clerk's office to ask about running for mayor, Jonathan Slavin was so helpful, and it was a huge blessing. So thank you very much.
And Ken and Dana, same question.
Thank you, Don. I think the city has done a tremendous job at not only preserving its proud past, but ensuring that we will have a bright future. Somersworth Historic District is one of the largest in the state and has some of the tightest regulations. In fact, oftentimes the HDC is criticized for being a little bit too protective of our historic value. So to say that Somersworth has simply not done a good job is simply not speaking the truth once again. In fact, our city has received accolades time and time again from state agencies for their great progressive approaches of maintaining Somersworth's proud past. Not only have we done a great job at maintaining our proud past by working with the HDC and ensuring that those regulations fit with our historic properties, but just within the last decade, we have had two major pieces of property and two assets to our community listed on the historic places of of our registry, the Hilltop School, which I helped preserve, and our own Forest Glade Cemetery, which is now listed on both of the National Historic Registries.
All right, thank you very much. The next question posed first to Ken Hilton. What is something actionable that you can implement in the first 100 days of being mayor of Somersworth?
I would meet with the city departments who are important to addressing the issues I mentioned above, to listen to their concerns and to encourage a common spirit of enthusiasm and support for economic development in Somersworth. Somersworth is one of the worst per capita crime cities in New Hampshire. Number 9, just ahead of Concord, which is number 10. This is a very serious problem that we must address vigorously and with intentionality. I would work with the police, community leaders, and the good citizens to do so.
Dana, you're up. Actionable, something you would be able to implement in the first 100 days.
Thank you, Don. It's going to be a busy 100 days because it's been a busy 100 days for the past 8 years. Within the first 100 days for the next 2 years, our first thing will be to aggressively market the plaza and ensure that we get an RFP with a developer to move forward with that plaza development, which is such a key asset in our downtown business development. We will move forward with the Mental Wellness Commission, of which I formed, with ensuring that we move to that next level of establishing the Somersworth Mental Wellness Commission and the Somersworth Mental Health Wellness Outreach to ensure that all of our students, city employees, and residents have access to mental health support and guidance. We will continue to move forward with the Tri-City Coalition of addressing homelessness within our community, of implementing the master plan that has been developed by all 3 city councils within our region. We'll continue to ensure that our first responders have adequate supplies and salaries to keep us all safe and protected, and move forward with our master plan with the commission that I formed, Eyes on 30.
Crystal, same question.
Thank you so much. So I know that we're going to talk a lot about housing, which I'm really glad about because the housing task force is one of the things that I would implement in the first 100 days, as well as our arts commission. And I'll talk about those a little bit more, but I also wanted to mention, one of the critical forms of power that a city mayor holds is appointing members of committees and commissions. And currently, there's a huge lack of representation of our Indonesian community, which make up 17% of Somersworth residents and are at the forefront of revitalizing our international reputation with the opening of the world's first Little Indonesia here in Somersworth. But I think we need members of the Indonesian community on boards that are not just our Little Indonesia committee, but reflecting all of the community. I also believe that we need more women, more youth, more folks with disabilities informing our decisions. So those are some things that I would do within the first 100 days.
All right. The next question we pose first to Dana. Economic revitalization drives prosperity. What city assets can be utilized to help spur positive momentum? Portsmouth and Dover have invested in the arts, music, and outdoor green space to drive concerts and special events. Can Somersworth use that same playbook? And if so, what would you propose?
Well, I think Somersworth is, and again, thanks, Don, is that Somersworth has a great network of nonprofits and long-standing commissions that have been established to promote the arts, and individual organizations like the Somersworth Children's Festival, like our school system that provides ample opportunity for the arts, like SYC, the Somersworth Youth Connection, that buds the next level of artists with himself. Yes, I agree. Those things drive the economic engine, along with ensuring a stable tax rate, which we have over the last 10 years, and celebrating your community. I was the mayor that implemented what is called the Cultural Commission. The Cultural Commission that is focused on its greatest asset, our great diverse culture, and our great commitment to ensuring that all people are represented and celebrated in Somersworth. This is the perfect avenue for this thing called an Arts Commission that Paradise continues to talk about. And I'm just curious why she never introduced a resolution to form this, because she could have as a city councilor.
Crystal, you have 1 minute.
Thanks, Don. So Portsmouth started their revitalization by investing in a survey that proved definitively how much economic development is sparked by the arts and culture of a committee. of a community. And they wrote in their investment for the arts and culture into their 10-year master plan. We can really see how that has paid off for them, as you mentioned. Somersworth can learn from this by writing our support for the creative economy and the arts, in particular, into our next master plan, which we're just beginning to write. This community is filled with talented, creative, engaging artists, performers, musicians, storytellers, whether they grew up here or came back here like me for the affordable housing. Whether they stay and how much they invest in the vibrancy of our city is going to be up to how much support our city's leadership demonstrates. Saying yes to an arts commission that was requested at the beginning of this year would have tapped into thousands of state dollars for public art, which was left on the table when our mayor said no. We can't keep waiting to say yes to those who've stepped forward.
And the same question, Ken Hilton, you have 1 minute.
Could you read the question one more time, please?
Yes. Economic revitalization drives prosperity. What city assets can be utilized to help spur positive momentum? Portsmouth and Dover have invested in the arts, music, and outdoor green space to drive concerts and special events. Can Somersworth use that same playbook? And if so, what would you propose?
I'm sorry, mine has those as two separate questions. So the economic revitalization part that drives assets or drives prosperity, I would say investors look for an enthusiasm, opportunity, and return on investment. People who, I'm all for the arts, I'm all for any kind of whatever the citizens are passionate about. I think they should have the freedom to go ahead and follow those passions. Some people that would be the arts. Some people would be a dog park. Some people it would be, a youth center. But I think that we need to get our tax bases down. Our taxes right now are 12% higher than I just think that we need to give it free market opportunities.
All right. The next question we pose first to Crystal. With the upcoming master plan, the community has an opportunity to revise its priorities for the next 10 years. These priorities are often complex, subjective, and open-ended. As mayor, how would you assess progress of such initiatives, past and current, to demonstrate progress or regression? And how would you communicate those metrics back to the community?
Yes, thanks. So in flipping through the 2010 master plan, it's clear that there are two major areas where we have not met our goals. Number one is that there are many specific tangible items that have not been accomplished, including a farmer's market, riverfront access, revitalization of the plaza, public art murals, a Main Street program, etc. Number two is that several goals, as you mentioned, are too open-ended and are actually nearly impossible to define a metric of accomplishment for. As mayor, I would make sure that our next master plan has measurable objectives, and where overarching or lofty goals are included, which I think can be great inspiration and motivation for progress, but where things are less defined, I would want to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to regularly assess our progress throughout the process. I believe our master plan should be collaboratively created with maximum community involvement, with clearly communicated to each committee tasked with tangible actions, and once written, accessible for regular review and accountability to it as our guiding vision.
Ken, 1 minute, same question.
Ken, you gotta unmute again, sorry. I'm only able to mute you, I'm not able to unmute you.
Okay. I will carefully evaluate our previous 10-year plan to see where we have succeeded and where we have not succeeded. Our long-term plans must include as high priorities reducing our crime rate and making our city one of the safest communities in New Hampshire. If you want revitalization of downtown, people have to feel safe to come downtown at night. Maintaining the physical infrastructure, making the property tax rate competitive with neighboring communities. At this time, we're 12% higher than Dover, 13% higher than Rochester, and almost double that of Portsmouth. Success in these areas will help us encourage investment of business and industry in our cities. So, in our city, not cities.
And Dana, 1 minute, same question.
Thank you, Don. And I actually have some experience in this because myself, along with former Councilor Todd Marsh and former Councilor John McCallion and Mike Watman, had introduced the legislation which formed Vision 2020, which was our last master plan. And had Councilor Paradise have lived here more than 54 months, she would have known that that plan was incredibly successful and achieved 96% of its goals, over 96% of its goals. And of course, we're already forwardly thinking with the Eyes on 30 Master Plan Commission, which I have already formed and announced to move forward with the next 10 years. That last master plan included goals which it reached for the arts. It included goals with successes for the schools, which it had reached. It included infrastructure investments, which it had reached. And it was a full community involvement with charrettes, with voices, with surveys, all of which will be accomplished with the Eyes on 30 Master Plan Commission, which has already been formed.
All right, the next question we pose first to Ken Hilden. Many feel that there is a lack of restaurant options and many storefronts on Main Street are not being used to their full potential. What is your plan to fill those spaces and build the community and our economy through adding more businesses downtown?
We need to make sure that our city ordinances and regulations do not unduly hinder new businesses, including restaurants in the downtown area. Like I said, the safety of all citizens is very important. Restaurant owners will not invest or succeed unless their customers feel safe. We need to support our law enforcement community and encourage good working relationship between police, citizens, and business owners. I would support carefully directed tax incentives to encourage improvement in the downtown buildings that will pay back in the long term increased property values. Tax incentives should be viewed as an investment by the city that will have long-term positive benefits. Ultimately, it's the quality of the restaurant and the patronage of the citizens that will make or break any new restaurant or old in the downtown area.
Thank you. Dana, 1 minute, same question.
Thank you, Don. The first thing that the city did was invest in its downtown area of revitalizing its infrastructure with a complete street project. And that complete street project already has paid off with attracting new businesses in. I agree with Ken, government has to offer incentives, which is why the whole downtown business district is a 79E tax incentive business district, where investors can come in and the city of Somersworth can lock in their property tax rate so that they can continue to invest within their property and continue to be the entrepreneurs to open new businesses there. We also need to ensure that the red tape is almost non-existent and that city staff and professionals are friendly. Somersworth is one of the few communities where if you want to meet with the city manager, you simply walk in off the street and go into the city manager's office. If you want to meet with our business development director and economic development director, you simply walk in off the street and meet with them. And they will guide you on how our community can support you in helping your business grow to fruition.
And Crystal, 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes. So number one is supporting the businesses that we already have in our downtown and making sure that people know they are there through downtown wayfinding, which I push for more of, and also signage from Exit 9 so that folks know that a vibrant Somersworth exists past Walmart and Target. Thriving current downtown businesses are really the best way to lure new businesses into our downtown. Number two, we absolutely must audit our permitting process and see where we can reduce unnecessary or confusing paperwork. Somersworth has a reputation in the region of being expensive and hard to do business with. So we absolutely must improve the experience of the hardworking folks trying to do business here. It shouldn't take a front page headline of a business being hassled by City Hall to get the attention of folks with the authority to say yes. We're a small municipality and we have a rock star part-time economic development director and city staff. So the best thing we can do to support her incredible work and bringing more business is cutting red tape at City Hall.
All right, the next question posed first to Dana. How do you envision maintaining an affordable cost of living for current residents as Somersworth Downtown Business District continues to grow and develop?
Well, I think the first thing is ensuring that your property tax rate is moving in the right direction and is stabilized. Again, 10 years ago, our property tax rate was $27.83. 10 years later, it's $27.85. That is with $14 million of investment in infrastructure and road improvement. That is with every school receiving capital improvements over the last 10 years. That is with us revitalizing every single park, with investments in police, fire, and first responders, with building a veterans memorial as a tribute to our veterans, with groundbreaking on a brand new fire department. These are the incentives that continue to grow your economy, grow your community, while at the same time maintaining your community to be affordable. We also need to work with the experts from the Housing Authority, the experts with the commissioners, our city experts, and lean on them who have gone to school and studied models to ensure that communities like Somersworth continue to have a bright future. So,
Crystal, you have 1 minute.
Yes, thanks. So I've been fighting for an affordable housing task force for nearly a year, and regional workforce housing advocates have joined in on that call. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that task force when we reach the housing section, but who we appoint to the boards, our land use boards, really matters. I'm someone who's had to work, 2 and sometimes pick up a 3rd job to make rent, and there wasn't much room for much else that fell under cost of living. It's really important to have folks who have a broad range of experiences. That means landlords, that means renters, that means homeowners, that means residents of our public housing. There's a saying in community organizing, nothing about us without us. So supporting all members of our communities to thrive here means having representatives from all members of the community at the table.
And Ken, you have 1 minute.
Can you unmute? Sorry.
Okay, this is a very tough dilemma. With a depressed downtown economy, apartment rents will be lower. But with the depressed economy and rents don't encourage economic development. If we are successful in bringing new businesses into our downtown district, rents will go up. Not many property owners are interested in affordable housing development programs because of the amount of red tape involved in that process. The subsidized housing quite often creates dependency and causes more challenges, and it comes with issues. There is no easy answer on these things. There are no easy answers, no free lunches, except when you go to your mom's house for lunch.
All right, thank you very much. Our next question we pose first to Crystal. If you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way that you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
So this one is really easy for me. It's fix every sidewalk and every street in Somersworth. And by the way, sidewalks are only as good as their curbing. So we need to have a plan to implement granite curbing and accessible widths everywhere we have a sidewalk. Roads, curbs, and sidewalks are one of the most frequently raised concerns of our residents, and for a really good reason. Good roads and sidewalks drive up property values, they increase economic development, and they improve quality of life for our residents. Now, look, I'm aware that $1 million wouldn't be enough to reconstruct every street and put granite curb sidewalks in place of every sidewalk that is in dire need of repair in the city. But it is worth noting that at our goal setting session earlier this year, I was not the only councillor who chose improving roads and sidewalks as one of my top 3 goals for the city. Yet this year's budget included just $900,000 for streets and sidewalks, and it's mostly being used for roads. We're just getting started with a true comprehensive sidewalk plan, which I'm really excited about, but it's long overdue.
Ken, you have 1 minute to answer the same question. And unmute your computer first, please.
Sorry, folks. As you can tell, I'm not a career politician. I'm just a regular citizen. I would use it to support the police and citizens in their efforts to reduce crime rate, get rid of the drugs in our city, to provide grants to organizations that are providing mentoring to troubled teens. They are our future, and we need to prioritize on them. I would also prioritize the worst sidewalks in the city that have failed many, many years ago. And that was one of the things that I got queried about this week whenever I was block walking and talking with folks. It's a real challenge, and the people, the taxpayers are the bill payers. And whenever their sidewalk in front of their house has been bad for 10 years, it's a big deal.
And Dana, 1 minute to answer that same question.
You know, a community is a community of partnerships, and that's what really defines a community, is that government cannot solve all of the problems, is that it has to be a network of people dedicated to truly grow that community. So if we were suddenly afforded this magic $1 million from either the state or federal government, or maybe from some philanthropist who truly believes in the Hilltopper spirit of neighbor helping neighbor, what I would immediately do is move to divvy that up to all of our nonprofit agencies who come before our community time and time again asking for help. And by the time we get to the budget, and finalizing the budget, there is so little to go around. I would give Coast the money that they are due to include to ensure that people are able to access affordable transportation and transportation to allow them to do their shopping or attend their medical needs. I would invest heavily within the Somersworth Children's Festival, who has been dedicated to our community for so many years, and places like Lydia's House of Hope, who continue to inspire and offer hope to individuals when they need it the most.
All right, next question we pose first to Ken. Over the past few years, the cost of living in Dover and Portsmouth has pushed many working class families out of those cities. How would you work on maintaining Somersworth's reputation for being a more affordable place to live in the Seacoast region and ensure that a variety of affordable options are available?
I don't believe that the mayor position has the power to ensure that we have affordable housing. The mayor has a bully pulpit, but again, there's a balance to be maintained. You have to work with the private sector. We have to make sure that our housing is safe. We do have affordable housing, but we also have a high rate of crime in our affordable housing areas. A housing task force that looks at all the options would be a place where ideas and possible solutions could be birthed. But we need to work with all the different perspectives, and just subsidized housing is not a good thing in the long term. And everybody always says, not in my backyard. So we need to minimize the regulations and work together as a team.
Dana, 1 minute, same question.
Well, first, let's clear the air. It wasn't a year ago when Councilor Paradise asked to form a housing task force. It was months ago. And in response to that, I immediately then talked to the city manager, directed the city manager along with our city employee experts, and the executive director of the Housing Authority, who has 37 years experience in affordable housing, to continue to study our zoning and planning laws and other progressive tasks that we can implement to ensure that Somersworth remains affordable and to ensure that we have affordable housing opportunities available to us all. So let's just clear the air with there first. Second of all is ensuring that our developers have access to any of the areas to develop and receive incentives like the 79E district to ensure that when they are building and constructing projects, that there is affordable housing opportunities there. And I agree with you, Ken. The mayor does not hold all the power, which means I don't have the power over rent control like Crystal might have added.
And Crystal, you have 1 minute to respond to that same question.
Yeah, so affordable housing is what brought me back to Somersworth 5 years ago. So protecting that is really important to me. Obviously, I've mentioned the Housing Task Force. There are a lot more reasons that this is so necessary. A new report came out just last week from the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy that noted how much local conditions, especially land use regulations, restrict the ability of the private sector to provide new housing in response to rising demand, which is what's happening right now. So I think we need to just publicly commit to 1,000 new housing units by 2030, with at least 25% of them affordable to working families. That is something we can set by policy. We need to say yes to multifamily housing, to micro apartments, to accessory dwelling units, and other things that will help us modernize our city with our own stock and with new stock to meet the needs that we have today. And it's our land use regulations that will allow us to either meet this need or not. So I think we really need to tick up that call.
Right, the next question posed first to Dana. What are your plans to address the soon-to-be displaced individuals experiencing homelessness in the community in the Willand Pond area? And how can we help going forward?
Well, it's not what are the plans, it's what will be my plans. It's what are the plans, is that it is a regional approach and it is all hands on decks. We have over 50 state and local nonprofit agencies, including government agencies, that are going to converge and at least offer guidance to these individuals who are experiencing this crisis out at Willand Pond and try to steer them towards the help necessary, and in cases, get them cued into the process where they can get the help if they desire that. So it's not what will I do, it's what are we doing. In addition to that, I was one of the leaders who formed the Tri-City Mayors Homeless Task Force, which was a regional approach with the 3 mayors at addressing this homeless crisis. Because of that, what came out of that was a master plan which was adopted by all 3 communities moving in the same direction. And one of the greatest accomplishments of that was the warming center, which is now located in Somersworth. So it's not what will I do, it's what I've already done, is forging those partnerships where we've worked together to address a very complex situation.
Crystal, 1 minute.
Yeah, so the Tri-Cities are already spending $100,000 on keeping that warming shelter operational just for emergency events. And at a meeting last Wednesday, I was in a room with a lot of service providers, and they said it's only $84,000 more to make it operational full-time from November to April. And that's not all. They're not even asking any of the communities to kick in that very small amount to solve that problem until April. We can use New Hampshire Emergency Rental Assistance Program funding and other ways to pay for each person's nightly stay, meaning our 3 cities don't have to spend another dollar. We just need to say yes to the solution that was created by the service providers, and that at least gets us to April. But that's just a short-term fix. So help going forward, we need housing. Mental health and substance use disorder programs are really important, but housing is the biggest unmet need, and we need more landlords to accept voucher, but those waiting lists are already really long. So we need more stock.
And Ken, 1 minute.
Gotta unmute you, Ken.
I think you might still, there you go. You might.
Okay. This is another tough problem with no simple solutions. I've had a brother who's been homeless for the 35 years that I've been married. He has worked the system for 35 years, gotten in all kinds of car accidents, done all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of people that are out in Willand Pond. And you cannot just go out there and force them to move to some stable location, because they may not have the maybe mental illness issues, drug addiction issues, or maybe just homeless because they want to be homeless. They want to live out there. Some do, some don't. But my brother has been in and out of places time after time. And he would go into, he would have a whole setup, free phone, free everything. But he was such a jerk to people that he'd get thrown out.
All right. Next question we pose first to Crystal. How would you provide equitable housing options while balancing property value and keeping those who own properties here invested in the community?
So great question. I experienced this year when my landlord put the house on the market. I live in a rare multifamily home on the hill, and I love my apartment. So I immediately applied for home loans and took home buyer courses and explored. I even tried to band together with one of my fellow tenants, a family I've known for 20 years. But ultimately together, we were unable to match a cash offer from an investment group. So our current housing rules, sadly, aren't written for people like me, even though I'm a sitting city councilor. I'm deeply involved and invested in my community. But I believe that our housing rules should be created with the highest benefit for our community in mind, which is local homeowners invested in making our community thrive. But I hear the concern around property values as well. And I don't believe that every housing type is right for every neighborhood. But I don't think there's anyone watching tonight who actually prefers another auto body shop instead of a flight of affordable housing, say on Route 9. And I don't think anyone would say no to their neighbor on the hill who wants to turn, their garage into an in-law apartment. So we have to be creative.
Ken, you have 1 minute. And you have to unmute your computer, please.
One way to help reduce the cost of housing is to make sure that we remove any unnecessary regulations on construction of new and renovation of existing properties. I have a friend in town who's trying to create a basement apartment for another friend who wants to live there, but he can't because there's so many regulations. Another way is to make sure that we are known as a safe city to live in. That will encourage investors to develop new properties also. The free market's the best way to go about getting new housing in here, but we have to work hard at minimizing undue regulations and stop the roadblocks and work with folks in the community first and foremost to clean up our own community, in front of our own house, and make it a welcoming community to everyone.
And Dana, 1 minute.
Well, it's that long-range plan which grows your community. And it's that plan of investing within your infrastructure, which we have done. That plan of investing within your education services, which we have done, which then attract residents to your community and continues to grow it. Somersworth has been recognized now as one of the hottest markets on the Seacoast. It's been recognized by the Manchester Union Leader, by Business New Hampshire, by Seacoast Online, as one of the boom towns and growing markets within the Seacoast region, and has also been recognized because of our affordable housing and the affordable housing stock that we still have. It is a multitude of facets. It's government working with the private sector, and at the same time continuing to stabilize your tax rate, which we have done, $27.85 again now, as opposed to $27.83 10 years ago. And at that same time, ensuring that what government can do is offer those programs so that people can buy their first house, like my husband and I were able to do our first house on Shabbat Street from some government programs because we were teaching.
Next question, posed first to Ken. What are your plans to address the mental health crisis on a city and greater community level?
This is another one of those questions that is just you have to work with nonprofits, you have to work with government agencies, you have to work with the private sector also to encourage people to work together as a community. Just to, think of your neighbor. Whenever you get to know your neighbors in your community or in your right next door to you, spend time with them, see where they're coming from, what's going on with them, and care for your neighbors, your community, the people at large in your own family. This pandemic has been really, really hard on a lot of the youth, and we need to work together to provide opportunities and hope for the future.
Dana, you have 1 minute to answer the same question.
It is building that partnership, which is why I announced the Mental Health and Wellness Commission, the commission that is now building from the ground level up the future of the Somersworth Mental Health Alliance, something that will be fashioned similar off of the successes of the Dover Mental Health Alliance. And it is that partnership. It is that partnership of government, the private sectors, faith-based organizations, which is something that Ken and I are not afraid of reaching out and working with, because within the faith-based organizations, there is an incredible network of support, and an incredible network of dedicated individuals. And it is opening your heart, your mind to the understanding of what individuals are going through and ensuring that those systems are in place to help people. I'm very proud already of the chairman, Todd Marsh, who is chairing that commission, and the work that they have already done. And what is on the horizon for this Somersworth community is an alliance that will protect and support everyone when they are within need.
And Crystal, 1 minute.
So 4 areas that are critical to this complex issue. First, we have a wealth of expertise in this region, both mental health and substance use disorders, which are intertwined and complex issues. So we need evidence-based, trauma-informed experts at the forefront of this crisis. Number two, we need to provide more training for our frontline public safety departments. In my conversations with our police officers, I've heard from them that they need more training to be able to assess when they are dealing with folks with mental health crises versus substance use disorders, and sometimes both. I think it's our responsibility to provide them with the training that they request. So number three is a greater collaboration with our surrounding communities and the county, who I agree with the majority of our city council. We need to step up and play a greater role in our social services along with us. And finally, federal and state advocacy, which is where the most impactful resources can come from. So our city leadership needs to be at the table advocating for this, which I would continue to do as mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Next question we pose first to Dana. Who is your top political role model and why?
Well, I would say my past top political, I would say civil rights leader, and someone who has always been a near and dear hero to my heart, is Dr. Martin Luther King. Is someone who lived through great struggles, but did not give up on the promise of America, and continued to fight for justice and continue to move forward with knowing of all the promises that this country can reach. Is, that America is a work within progress. And another one of my heroes is my uncle Pete, who is deceased, who served in a segregated unit during World War II. I can recall this. One of the stories that he shared with me is after being processed back here in the States, after fighting on the front over in Germany. One of the first experiences that he had was walking off base and then being approached by some individuals telling him that his color walks on the other side of the street. But Uncle Pete never gave up on America and never gave up on the promise of what this country can truly deliver for everyone.
Crystal, you have 1 minute.
My involvement with local politics is rooted in community organizing, and that's why my top political role model is community organizer Dolores Huerta. Dolores Huerta was a civil rights leader and an equal partner to Cesar Chavez in co-founding the National Farm Workers Association. She's not nearly as well known as some of her allies, but she dedicated her life to organizing for the people, for fighting for better living conditions and better working conditions for overlooked working class people. Dolores popularized the phrase "Si se puede," which you may know better as "yes, we can." My role as a public servant is to listen to the people, to say, yes, we can, and work together with them to meet the needs that are going unmet. Dolores Huerta turned 91 years old this year, and she's still organizing, still leading with integrity and fighting for the rights of all people. I hope when I'm 91, I'll be able to look back and be proud of that too.
And can you have 1 minute to answer the same question?
My top political role model would be Rand Paul, actually. He has been pushing back against the pandemic lies and mistruths that have been told and challenging people with the actual science. But he's not just a constitutional conservative who wants to stick to and follow the rule of law. He's an ophthalmologist who's done volunteer work overseas, giving people back their sight for free. He's done those kind of things. He's traveled all over the world doing those kind of things. And he also serves the veterans and helps to provide housing for disabled vets. But he also speaks up and is willing to buck the system in both parties, but he's also willing to work across the aisle with both parties.
All right, the next question we pose first to Crystal. What are your favorite places to visit in town?
Ooh, 1 minute. All right. So for food, Tatya's Kitchen, Bali Satay, Bad Lab Beer Company, Stripe 9 Brewing, 45 Market Street, Gravy, and of course my second home, Teetotaler. For the outdoors, the Riverwalk is one of my favorite places in town. We have these gorgeous mills, and if we smartly develop that old GE and Aclara property, we could truly give public access from that gorgeous waterfall all the way down to our Riverwalk. For shopping, one of my go-tos is Poppy Seed downtown, but we also have a couple of really new businesses like William Poole Confectioners downtown at Delicious, an Emerge Salon and Novelty Shop, which just opened up, and they have amazing gifts and cards, etc. And speaking of chocolate tastings, the library, I think, is one of the jewels of our community. They hosted a recent sold out chocolate tasting event. I don't know another place where you can get a good book to read, play a cornhole game, and get a cup of coffee.
All right. Ken, your favorite places to visit in town?
One of my favorites is Smoke and Cream, Old Rail Pizza, the Riverwalk. I like Willen Pond, but it does need to be cleaned up. And we need to work together as a community to be able to do that. I like all the city. I enjoy walking and just getting to talk with people. And yeah, it's not always the restaurants and the other places. I enjoy walking the back neighborhoods to get to talk with people and to encourage folks that there is hope and we can make it a better place. So yeah, I enjoy the whole city.
Dana, your favorite places to visit in town?
Well, I feel I'm about ready to give away one of my secrets here. So one of my favorite places of all time in town is Forest Glade Cemetery. That is a place that I walk a lot, almost every morning and sometimes late evening when I'm not able to get my morning walk in. It was modeled off of Mount Auburn Cemetery over in Cambridge, same layout. And it was created during that turn of the century with this new style of cemeteries, which unfortunately didn't catch on, which was a place where you would go and celebrate the spirit of those members who have moved on, where it would be a passive recreational area for you to reflect and really celebrate and enjoy life. And that is why Forest Glade Cemetery is on the National Historical Places Registries and is such a gem for this community and is just such an amazing place filled with history, myself being a former history teacher, and really that opportunity of just slowing yourself down and reflecting on all that is good within this.
All right, the next question. I'm sorry.
Nope, she's giving me the 10. I'm good.
Ken, this question is posed to you first. If elected mayor, what are the first changes you plan to implement?
Well, the first one would be the nameplate on the desk. No, just kidding. But I'm a candidate for mayor, as you all know, and we have a city manager style of government. There are very few changes that I can implement as a mayor, but I would work together with the rest of the departments and encourage a spirit of public service in every department, enthusiastic support for our public safety officers as they strive to make our city a safer place to live. To the extent of the bully pulpit, I have and will do all I can to encourage development in the city. We need to encourage people to come to the city and to get to know us, to get to know the area. We need to keep our property taxes low, become more competitive with the rest of the cities around us, with the other two cities around us.
All right,
10 seconds, done.
1 minute, Dana. And you have to unmute your computer.
What would I change, Don? No, it's what would I continue? What would I continue is that team approach to governing that Somersworth has become known for, is us collaboratively working to overcome adversity and problems. What would I continue? Continue our investment in infrastructure like we have over the last decade, $14 million. Continue to stabilize our tax rate, 10 years. Again, our tax rate is now $27.85. Continue to invest in our schools like we already have with all of the capital improvements that we have done. Continue to invest in 21st century education with our award and state recognized schools. Continue to stand by our first responders, police, fire, and EMS, and continue to ensure that they have competitive salaries and the equipment necessary to keep all of us safe. Continue to ride this wave of Somersworth being the boom town and recognized for its commitment to diversity and celebrating individuals. And most importantly, continue to practice the Hilltopper spirit and inspire that spirit of neighbor helping neighbor and grow our community that all.
And Crystal, you have 1 minute.
So I'm glad we got to cover housing a lot tonight because that would be my first action, forming a housing task force. Number 2 would be forming the Arts Commission to finally say yes to that grant money that's just waiting for us to put to use in our city. And I have to mention another thing that so many of our residents have brought up over the last few years, and that's making our city website more accessible and usable. If information is technically available somewhere, but you have to know who to call to find it, it's not truly accessible. And thankfully, we have wonderful city staff who I'm on the phone with or emailing quite frequently to try to find things on that website. So I think doing an assessment of the usability of our city website and making it more accessible, and that goes right along with an accessibility audit, which I've said is one of my priorities if elected. That goes along with the digital component that I've mentioned, including the website and social media, but also physical accessibility, including our roads, sidewalks, library, etc.
All right. Well, thanks to our three candidates for answering all the questions that were submitted by the audience this evening. We will give each of the candidates 2 minutes to deliver their closing statement, and we will start once again with Dana Hilliard. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for the Chamber for this opportunity for all of us. For 8 years, our great Hilltop City has been on the move, on a journey towards reclaiming our success. We have done so by embracing the values of the Hilltopper spirit of neighbor helping neighbor, of honesty, integrity, hard work, diversity, understanding, and embracing our proud past while continuing to progress towards our bright future. Somersworth, for 8 years, I have dedicated myself to the team approach of governing, fostering state and regional partnerships, and always having Somersworth citizens first in every action that I have taken. We have invested in our infrastructure, schools, parks, first responders, and honored our veterans with a new memorial. Somersworth, you have known me for 49 years. You have been my home. I've attended your schools, was baptized, and continue to pray in one of your churches, St. Ignatius, and own a home and contribute back to the community that has given me so much. For my first residence at 124 Unit A on Bartlett Ave, to my parents' first in life home on Endigo Hill Road, to my husband in our home on Franker Drive, you have been with me throughout the journey of my childhood and adulthood, supporting and encouraging me every step of the way. After graduating from college, I've dedicated myself to the opportunities for the next generation of Hilltoppers, serving 22 years within the same school system that afforded me hope and a path towards my successes and dreams. For 8 years, Somersworth has become the model throughout the state with our team approach to governing, while honoring our vast diversity and earning us a statewide reputation of being New Hampshire's welcoming city. Somersworth, you know that service and advancement is all about sacrifice and not about self or your own motives. Somersworth, for 8 years, we have been on the move. On Tuesday, November 2nd, I ask for your vote for a release and for a
2 minute closing statement, Kenneth Hilton.
My name's Ken. I work for a living. I'm not a career politician, but I am coming from a conservative perspective on government, limited government, personal responsibility, building community, and growth of small business, encouraging Hilltoppers to get involved in their local community, to care for their neighbor, to love one another, and to work together well. I haven't been here all my life, and I don't want to impose my worldview on everyone, but I want to give everyone the opportunity to be served. I want to be a public servant, not a career politician. I want to work with all people on all sides of every issue to get to the best answers. Because usually if you listen to everyone, then you get to the consensus in the middle somewhere. But I do come from a free market perspective, and I want to encourage that and the volunteerism and caring for your neighbor. Conservatism with a heart, but also with a real market understanding of there's no end to needs, and there's always a need for more tax money. But no one cares as much as you do for your own property. We need to work together. Thank you very much, and I would appreciate your vote on November 2nd.
All right, thank you very much. And a 2-minute closing statement from Crystal Parody.
Thank you to everyone for joining tonight. Thanks to the Chamber for organizing and to Dawn for hosting. I love this city, and that's why I'm proud to be endorsed by 2 past chairs of Friends of Somersworth, a historic preservation organization that was formed to save the historic Hilltop building. And I'm also endorsed by the former chair of the Historic District Commission. The American Federation of Teachers, AFT-NH, also just endorsed me as a candidate who they say understands the value that strong public schools and stable, good-paying jobs have to offer the vitality of a community. Coming soon in our sister downtown of Berwick is step 1 of an entire reinvention of their downtown. And I'm committed to increasing our coordination with Berwick, which is a win-win partnership that could be a huge economic benefit to both communities. The mayor that our community elects on November 2nd will lead the next 10-year master plan. And I think we're ready to embrace new ideas that will lead us into a brighter, more prosperous future. I can't wait to see our tax dollars invested in curbs and sidewalks and roads, raising our property values and generating more revenue for our schools. I can't wait for public art to emerge throughout our city, driven by artists and the creative people who live here. I can't wait for a housing task force to show us how we can protect what affordable housing we have left, build new housing that includes workforce housing, and provide long-term solutions to the homelessness crisis, which is more available housing. I want to hear from you what you can't wait for, because I'm here to serve the community. I'm here to listen to you, to build partnerships, and to get things done that will build a brighter future for Somersworth. I hope I can count on your vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
I want to once again thank all of our candidates, Dana Hilliard, Kenneth Hilton, Crystal Parody. Thanks to the Falls Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this forum. Thanks to all of you who participated this evening via Zoom, and a reminder that this forum has been recorded and it will be shared on the Chamber's YouTube channel, website, and also on Facebook. We urge you all to turn out. We'd like to see a large voter turnout on Tuesday, November 2nd. I'm Don Bryant. Good luck to all of you, and good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone. Great job.
Thank you so much.